In this episode, let's look at how you can record two lavalier microphones into a single smartphone. Check this out. Over time, we've had a fair number of questions about how to record two people using a lavalier mic and doing that on a budget or, for example, recording into your smartphone. Well, when we did the review of the SmartLav Plus a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that I ordered at the same time that I bought the SmartLav Plus was a little device called the Rode SC6. It's a little adapter here, and it allows you to record two lavalier mics into your smartphone at one time. Now, there are a few limitations here, so this is not the ultimate solution for everybody, but it is a pretty good solution in terms of budget. It's not terribly expensive. It would involve the cost of two SmartLav Plus lavalier microphones plus the adapter itself, and we'll have links for all those down below so you can check out the pricing in your part of the world. This little adapter, we'll give you a tour in just a second, but it includes two inputs for lavalier mics, an output for headphones, and then it plugs directly into your phone from there. Now, there's some limitations. You can't just go plugging any 3.5 millimeter mic into this. It accepts TRRS microphones, so that's going to be something like the SmartLav Plus, which is really designed to go into a smartphone and not into a dedicated audio recorder. Now, as far as my recommendations here, I would definitely stick with the SmartLav Plus if you're going to do this. I did do a quick test to see how it worked if you plug in a SmartLav and a SmartLav Plus, and you get all of the nastiness of a SmartLav if you do that. And what I mean by that is all of the hiss and the noise from a SmartLav. I would not recommend that. Now, just in case you missed the SmartLav Plus review, here's an example of what the SmartLav sounds like in relation to the SmartLav Plus. I definitely would go with the SmartLav Plus. Yes, it's more expensive. Yes, it's worth every additional penny that you pay for it. All right, let's take a quick tour of the Rode SC6. This is it right here. Very simple device. We have our TRRS plug right there. And then we have two inputs for each of the mics and then a third port here for a set of headphones. So this is a very simple device. It's kind of like I guess you'd call it like a breakout box almost, and very simple. So the idea here is, and I think we probably should have this discussion before we move on here, there are different types of mini jack or mini 3.5 millimeter plugs, and the two main kinds, and the kinds I think that are important to talk about here, are TRRS and TRS. And you can see here the difference is pretty straightforward. I mean, I think you can see this one has the 3 black rings, this one has the 2 black rings. So it's important to use the right kind in the right situation. So this here with the TRS is actually my HMN Sound lavalier mic, the original, and that's TRS. So that's really designed for going into something like the Zoom H1 and not designed for going into a smartphone. And then, of course, since this is going to be working with a smartphone, we've got to have a TRRS connector here. TRRS, I should say. Now, one thing I've noticed too, just in terms of design, if you have a case on your phone, you're probably gonna have to take it off. Mine's relatively low profile, but it still wouldn't fit with the case on. So to get it on and to get it to fit and stay and make a solid connection, you've got to take the case off in most instances. Then from there, the mics that come into this need to be TRRS or adapted to TRRS. So I only have one Rode SmartLav Plus, and I didn't want to mess with the SmartLav because, again, as we talked about in our last review, that's a pretty noisy mic, and I haven't been thrilled with it. But the Rode SmartLav Plus I really like. And again, this has got the TRRS, again, with the 3 rings on there, so that can go straight in, no problem. This HMN Sound lavalier can't, but what we did is Rode also makes this little adapter, and what this does is it takes a TRS plug, like on the HMN Sound, and adapts it to TRRS. So we can just plug this guy in here, and then this will go okay into the SC6. So there I can record 2 mics into one phone. Now, it turns out this was actually a poor choice for the second mic here. The SmartLav Plus does great. Turns out that the HMN sound, the original, not the micro-lav, but the original, is not as sensitive. It doesn't have an output signal that's nearly as strong as the SmartLav. So when I recorded this little test interview, and I only got one shot at it, just because of schedules and things like that, this mic was not nearly as sensitive and didn't put out as strong a signal as the SmartLav. So my interviewee, who used the SmartLav, she sounded great, and we'll show that in just a second. And I used this mic, and you could barely hear me. So this is not a good choice. Actually, if I were to do it again, I would use the HMN Sound micro-lav, which does have an output signal that's pretty similar here to the Rode SmartLav. So really kind of keep in mind that if you're using a TRS lavalier mic, it's got to have a pretty good strong output signal to work well in this type of scenario. So really, I guess what I'm saying here is that if you're kind of new to audio and you're trying to get two lavalier mics recorded onto your phone, if you can, I'd just go with two SmartLav Pluses. Anyway, so that's the example there. Again, you've got to make sure you're using the right types of inputs. This like a giant squid on its own will not go directly into this. You could probably use this adapter, but again, I don't think you're going to get the same input level as you would on the SmartLav. So the SmartLav is really designed to work on a smartphone. It's probably the best choice if you're going to do that. So if you're serious about getting two mics into a smartphone, I would definitely, as a first choice, go with two Rode SmartLav Pluses. One other note, you get the box itself, SC6, doesn't give you a lot of space in between your two interviewer and interviewee. So you may end up sitting pretty close unless you have some sort of extension cable. So something to keep in mind, it's not going to work out well if you need a little bit more distance. And I'll need to investigate. I haven't looked yet, but there may be some way to extend these cables a little bit. I know on the TRS side, there certainly is. In fact, Rode makes a VC1, which is a 10-foot extension cable for TRS microphones. But we'll have to see if they've got a similar type thing, or anyone else has a similar type thing for TRRS. Another thing to consider is that when it records both mics onto a single channel. So you lose some flexibility there. In editing, if you have talent that talk at different levels, you're going to have to go in and kind of slice up the audio and adjust those independently of each other. So it's a bit more work. So it's not a deal breaker necessarily if this is going to be good enough for the type of production you're doing, but it is something to consider. What is the difference, or is there a difference between a violin and a fiddle?
The difference is in how they are played. So it's the style of playing and some of the bowing and left hand things that we do that differentiate the two.
Left hand things, that's the fingerboard?
The fingering hand,
okay,
yes.
Fingering hand, very good. Does anyone play violin or fiddle left-handed?
Yes, and they play it both left-handed with the strings the same order as a right-handed player would play, the normal setup, and also where they reverse the strings.
Okay, so if they play it in the normal order, they could borrow someone else's fiddle, but
right.
If they play it in the opposite way, then that would be a bit of a problem.
It could be, maybe.
Okay. And in terms of styles of music, what styles of music do you play?
I play classical, I play various folk fiddle styles. The things that I haven't explored very much are jazz and pop or rock music.
Okay. So there you go. You decide for yourself if that's good enough for the type of production you're using. Will I use that? Not typically, because I have so many other options in terms of great microphones. But it is very convenient. And so if you've got a phone already, a smartphone, and you want to be able to record two people in interview style situations, you're going to have your talent, your interviewee and interviewer sitting pretty close to each other. It's a pretty good option, and it's fairly low cost. So I hope you found that helpful. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that, and we'll sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk with you soon.